In this video, I'm going to cover how to set your project folder, how to maneuver within the scene, and we'll also cover how to move, rotate, and scale an object. Then lastly, we'll cover how to save your scene so you can continue modifying it as you progress. So I'll go ahead and go to New. The first thing I want to do is I want to set my project folder. This allows me to go and use the files that I have within the project folder in Maya. Alright, so I'll go to File, Set Project, and I'll choose the project folder that I created, and I'll hit Set. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to go ahead and bring in a cube. And you'll notice that by clicking the cube up here, automatically the cube gets placed in the center of my scene. Now, to be able to work within the space, you must be able to know how to move, rotate, and scale, and also move your camera. So let's cover how to move the camera. If you use your middle mouse button to scroll in and scroll out, you'll be able to zoom in and zoom out in increments. If you hold down the Alt and right mouse button, you'll be able to zoom in gradually. If you hold down the Alt and left click and drag, you'll be able to rotate your camera around the object. And lastly, if we hold down Alt and middle mouse button, we can pan around the object. One quick hotkey to be able to focus your view onto an object that you have selected is by hitting the letter F. F stands for focus, and basically it focuses the camera on the object that you have selected. And not just the object. If I were to select a component, it'll automatically focus on that component. And you'll notice it'll rotate around that component only. Alright, so this allows me to have better control over what I'm going to be working on. The next thing I'll cover is how to move an object in space. To be able to manipulate an object within space, we're going to have to use a move, rotate, and scale. The first hotkey is W. You notice once I hit W, I have a gizmo and arrows that point in different directions. Now, take a look at the bottom left of your view. You have a little legend showing you what each arrow is. So Y is up and down, Z is forward and backwards, and X is left and right. So you can move your object towards the camera or away from the camera. You can move it left or right, or you can move it up and down. The next one is E. E is for rotate. So with E we can rotate on individual axes. Alright, this allows me to rotate my model based on the axis that I need. And lastly, we'll cover scale. Scale is R. Scale has various options to use, but the main ones to focus on are the center, which scales uniformly, or you can scale an individual axis for your model. Now you'll notice that if you hit Q it automatically goes away. That's because Q stops any action that you have. Alright, we'll be using Q a lot during our process. On the right hand side, you'll notice our attribute editor. As I mentioned in the previous video, we'll be covering more of this as we progress. But the attribute editor has its original attributes that the cube gets imported with. Alright, we have materials, shaders, we have the polycube, the shape itself, and the initial pcube1, which is the original settings that it comes with. At the bottom of that, we have the channel box. Now the channel box is very important. This is the initialization of the p-cube into space. Now, when you first bring in a cube or any type of poly model from the basic shapes here, you will be able to manipulate the surface by going to its inputs. If I select polycube 1 under inputs, you'll notice that I have subdivisions, width, height, and depth. We can click on one of these subdivisions, and within the model I can middle mouse click and drag right to add or left to take away. So I can add as many divisions as I want, or I can take away as many divisions as I want. I can do that for all three: width, height, and depth. The last portion I want you to look at is the outliner. Here in the outliner, you'll notice that my p-cube is showing up. And if I rename this p-cube to box 1, and I duplicate this by hitting Control D, you'll notice that now I can show the two different boxes I have. I have box 1 and box 2. Maya automatically adds a digit to each individual item that you duplicate. You can also delete objects within the outliner. The outliner basically shows what's in the scene at the moment. When we start working with Maya, you'll notice that the outliner will start getting jam-packed with assets. This is going to allow you to maneuver between the objects easier. The last thing I want you to learn is how to save your scene. Alright, so we're going to go to File, and we're going to do a Save Scene As. And I'm going to name here tutorial _start. Alright, notice one thing. Whenever we work in Maya, try to use camel case. So you start off with an uppercase letter, and then you spell out the name, and then the next word will start with an uppercase letter, and then you spell out the name. You can use underscores as spaces, but try to keep it this way, because as you start working with different files, you want to be able to name your files based on what you're exporting. So if it's a mountain or a mountain and rocks, you actually can see the name when you use camel case. So when we're going to save our scenes, we want to save it as a Maya binary, because this is what we're going to be using to create our models within Maya. Later on, I'll show you how to export files for Unity and Unreal. Alright, so once we have our file name, you'll notice that within our tutorial Maya folder, we have our scenes folder. That's very important. All saved scenes must go into the scenes folder. So I'll go ahead and click on Save. That about covers this portion of the instructions. In our next video, we'll go ahead and cover how to use the different views and we'll cover how to create reference images, and we'll start our modeling process.